For more on the latest jobs report and the economy, we're joined by Robert Reich, author and professor and former Secretary of Labor under President Clinton. He has a best-selling ebook, Beyond Outrage. Welcome back to the show. Secretary, let me start with the economy first. We've had a mixture of numbers, some good, some not so good, but overall it seems to be tending in a more positive direction. And I guess my question is, would you agree with that?
I would agree with it, but with one very large qualification, Philip. The American economy is continuing to come out of the deep recession that began in the end of 2007, beginning of 2008, but it is still a very anemic, very slow recovery. We're seeing growth of around 2% this year on an annualized basis. Next year, the forecasts are for continued very slow growth. So while it is not contracting, we don't see a recession in the future, it is not something to celebrate either.
You know, you mentioned anemic, and as you look out the next couple of quarters, what will the economists be focused on? Will it be jobs or housing or something global that would be able to drive that economy from being anemic to perhaps something more sustainable?
Consumer spending is the most important indicator and the most important driver. 70% of economic activity in the United States is American consumers buying various things. And if consumers are worried about the future, if they don't feel like they have enough money in their pockets, if they can't easily borrow money, then they are not going to spend all that much, and therefore the economy will continue to grow, but at an anemic rate.
How much is that discussion surrounds the political debate, which, you know, we saw the fiscal cliff, the spending cuts, they're pushing back or trying to push back that debate perhaps even further. Are you surprised at how optimistic investors are?
Well, remember, investors in the stock market in the United States are dealing mostly with firms that are global firms and looking at a whole. I mean, putting Europe to one side, there is a lot of good news in the global economy. China continues to grow at a fairly good rate. We're seeing other growth in other nations, not as spectacular as it was a few years ago, but still quite good. The stock market reflects expectations, and those expectations are positive. However, the reality of the economy in the United States is not quite as good as the stock market. We are seeing in the United States right now a record percentage of the economy going to corporate profits and a record small percentage of the economy going into wages. Well, that means that American consumers who actually live and depend on wages won't have as much money in their pockets as they need to continue the engine of economic growth.
Robert, you understand politics better than anybody, politics, policy, and the economy. The question is, will it be the state of the economy or will it be politics that drives future policy for the president and, I guess, on a larger scale, Congress?
The president does not have to worry about being reelected. He's already been reelected, and now he can relax. He doesn't have to do anything in anticipation of the next election. But obviously, the president wants the economy to do well, and he wants American living standards to improve. Here's the problem. We have a very large budget deficit coming up. And the real issue is the sequencing of policy. Do you stimulate the economy in the short term and then tackle the budget deficit and make cuts in spending, in public spending, and raise taxes over the longer term in order to get that deficit under control? Or do you have the political will that's necessary to do it in the right sequence? And I think one of the problems right now is that Democrats and Republicans are stymied. They're in paralysis. It's very hard to get anything done in Washington. Ideally, we should have a stimulus first, and then we should get serious about budget deficit reduction when the economy is back on track.
Robert Reich, author, professor, and former Secretary of Labor under President Clinton, thank you very much for your insights. Good advice.